Hello, I'm Hushi, and welcome to another video of me talking extemporaneously about a topic so that hopefully it will give you some comfort and amusement. I have found a couple of suggestions that I'm going to try on quick and easy movie production that doesn't make quite as huge a movie as iMovie does, so hopefully that will be something that I'll be able to do here. But today I'm going to talk about a film called Mausoleum. It was one of those possession films, you know, the type, the Exorcist sort of inspired films. And it had Marjoe Gordner in it, who is almost always hilarious, but always entertaining, always very watchable. But I guess he would be. If you don't know who Marjoe Gordner is, just look him up. It's not hard to find information on him. He's been in a lot of films, Star Crash being one of them. It was, oddly, released in 1983, which is quite a ways after The Exorcist was a popular thing, so I was kind of surprised. But it doesn't really do The Exorcist. It's very different. It is a possession story, but it's not The Exorcist, and it's not trying to be, which I guess is probably for the best. It also features LaWanda Page, which is delightful. Again, if you don't know any of these people, please look them up, because, God, some of them are just so amusing. But this, I hate to say it like this is probably the most unintentionally hilarious film that is not really a bad film. Like, it's not poorly made, it's not poorly acted. The music is bad, though, I will give it that. But overall, it's a pretty well-made film with very serviceable effects, an involving story that's actually kind of tragic and horrific at the times when it should be. It deals with a lot of issues of the main character, who is a woman that finds herself not treated as she would like by some of the men in her life. But as she is possessed by evil, she is able to do things about that, and she does. It is a kind of a silly story that women of this nomad, which is demon spelt backwards, family line are not supposed to go into the mausoleum because otherwise they'll be possessed by evil. But the thing about it is that, and it says this early on, like a crown of thorns will completely take care of that. And indeed, they just resolve the whole thing by putting a crown of thorns and just getting the thing back out in the mausoleum. So it's actually almost hilariously tragic that it's such a simple resolution and it takes so long to get there. But on the way, it's actually really, really interesting. I had a few moments where I was just like, why would they do that specific thing? So I'm going to go through them. I actually sort of live commented on it to a friend, so I'm consulting my sort of notes. The movie starts off with a flashback that you don't know is a flashback, but the girl is supposedly around 10. She did not look around 10 to me. Actually, she looked a bit older, like early teens, early to middle teens. And supposedly, after that first scene, like 20 years have passed. We're supposed to believe that this woman is 30 when we pick back up with her. Probably one of the worst choices, I feel, that was made in this film was casting the aunt character as a younger woman, but making her up to be old-looking in the much longer and more detailed scenes she has later in the movie. They should have just cast an older actress and made her look young for the, one shot she gets and the handful of lines in the first part of the movie. So as a result, when we pick back up with the story, it looks like the girl and her aunt are the same basic age, which was really a bad idea. There are some really questionable wigs in this, and some really questionable makeup work, so it's not too bad, but considering you spend way more time with the aunt character later in the film, and you see a lot more of the makeup that's supposedly to make her look older, it does not work that way. You only see a glimpse of her in the first part, which is why they could have easily just do a soft focus, something, and be like, okay, she's younger there. Maybe she has longer hair or a different wig or something like that. But no, that was the wrong way to do it. Also, the main character is not made up particularly well in a lot of the scenes, and it's very conspicuous when she's doing something like sitting in the bath with a full face of makeup, and her hair completely, perfectly styled, not even put up either. Sitting in bed with a full face of makeup and her hair completely styled. And the makeup is not really super flattering to her, like it's not a good look for her. And it's very obviously makeup. I was having a conversation with a friend last night, in fact, while I was watching it. And we were talking about how another mutual friend of ours will just clock a face full of makeup. And I know it's a concession. You have to have it when you're in theatre, when you're on film. You know, even now, even though we can shoot people without makeup on film and actually have it, you know, clear and visible, and, you know, they don't have to put on ridiculous amounts of lipstick and mascara and so forth. But you still kind of want to do it. But the big magic of makeup comes when you have to make someone look like they're not wearing makeup. And I was just commenting on the fact that I always find it amusing to pick out the shades of lipstick that male actors are wearing, because a lot of people watching films and theatre don't know and don't think about the fact that, yes, men do have to wear lipstick and other kinds of makeup to actually be seen and distinguished on film and on stage, especially on stage, because, you know, if someone may be sitting in the back and the lights are bright, they may lose the shape of your mouth, and some people really need to see how your mouth is moving so that they can understand what you're saying. But anyway, the makeup for her was not particularly flattering, and it also did a great job of making her look like she was about the same age as her aunt, who is supposed to be well older than she is, and should have looked much older. As I said before, the music was not very good. Like, there is a scene at a club, and the closed captioning said disco music in parentheses. It was not disco music. It was, and I quote myself in my notes, the most unbelievably unambitious, soulless excuse for jazz I have ever heard. Now, that may be a bit of hyperbole, but it was really, really bad. It was like a child's first jazz record, but just horribly, horribly botched. It had none of any sort of passion or feeling or rhythm that jazz should have. It was really, really awful, and I feel bad saying that. There was a scene when the main character sets a man's car on fire with her mind, and him in it, and the only reaction of anyone watching this happen, watching this very obviously unfold before them, was this older woman saying, "Oh shit," just in that exact tone, just like the same tone as you talk to a cat who just shit on the floor while you were watching and looked you in the eyes. Like, that's the exact feeling I got off that woman saying, "Oh shit," as this guy is just burning to death in his car. Then we had this out-of-nowhere montage of their groundskeeper. Like, he's doing gardening, he's having lunch, he's taking a nap. Like, he's not an unattractive or uncharming man, although most of the men in this woman's life have a real problem with being straightforward or at least not being creepy. Like, there's so many people in this movie that are otherwise attractive people, but they just don't know how to express themselves in a way that isn't either creepy or stupid. And the gardener is one of them. Like, later, he has this scene with her, and he's genuinely being nice, like trying to build her up and be complimentary and just all these things, but it's too little too late then, of course. But like, why did we have a montage of this guy's day? Most of the shots in this aren't that questionable, but like, there's that, like, why would we have a montage of this character who doesn't really matter? And then you have a scene later, the only other scene that I had a problem with, really, when the husband, Marjoe Gardner, is having a talk with his wife, who's being obviously possessed and evil, and she sort of, it makes it look like she got up and walked away, but we're supposed to believe that she just turned over forcefully in the bed and was out of the shot. So he reaches over her to get this painting that, hilariously, she stole from an art gallery in a shopping mall, and then used her evil powers to telekinetically hover him over the second floor railing and then drop him onto basically like a picnic table with an umbrella that he gets impaled on. There were a lot of people there who very clearly saw her hovering a dude. So it sort of bears the question too, did no one talk to anyone about that? Like, did no one think, that woman's probably involved, or, that woman clearly just stole a painting that this guy is trying to get back from her. It's not like it was a small painting either, and it's not like he wasn't just calling out in the middle of a crowded shopping mall where people were watching this dude be telekinetically hovered in the air and then dropped. It's like nobody called the authorities, nobody called the ambulance, anything. So that was a moment that was a bit questionable in it. Oh, and there's always about a dozen rats, all congregated on the top of this tomb. But why would the rats be there? Why would they be on top of that tomb every single time? They are on the lid of the stone casket, whether it's moved back or whether it's actually covering it. It's just, they're always there. Even when she's having dreams, there's always like a dozen rats on that tomb. But why? Why would rats even be there? If there's not food there, and there's no reason for them to be there, like there's just a bunch of cobwebs and dust and debris on it, why would rats be congregating there? It doesn't make any sense. Later, there was a scene where the possessed woman starts the scene naked. And it's very well shot though. Like, it's beautifully shot because it's not the kind of scene where it's just like, well, here it is. It's actually very artistically shot and incorporates a mirror as well. And it's clever and it's interesting. And it also really plays up her physical beauty. But, and yes, you do see her butt, but that's not what I'm talking about. But she starts the scene naked looking in a mirror and then wraps a towel around herself and goes outside onto the balcony to further tempt the groundskeeper. But there's already a glass of what looks like champagne perched on the iron railing of the balcony, which says to me that she poured herself a glass of champagne, set it out on the railing, which was obviously very hard to balance it. Like, she sets the glass down and has some trouble balancing it and getting it to stay in place. So she must have poured it, put it out there, not done anything with it, walked back inside, took her clothes off, decided to admire herself in the mirror for some unknown period of time, then wrapped herself in a towel, walked back out to drink the glass of champagne that is probably warm by now, and just decided to flash the gardener anyway. Like, what the hell does that even make any sense? There's dreamlike logic, and then there's just bullshit, and that's just total bullshit. But I can excuse it because it was an artistically done scene, for the most part. Pretty well done if you don't think about that part. LaWanda Page, though, is the best part of the film, and I will tell you why. Any of you that have listened to me for long enough know, I always like it when things make sense in horror, and especially when people are just like, no, you're not paying me enough for this, I'm out. There was a film called The Taking of Deborah Logan, I believe it was called. It was about an older woman being possessed that they thought it was just senility or Alzheimer's. But at one point in that film, half the crew were like, no, you're not paying us enough for this, and they leave, safely get out of the movie. They're never seen again. They don't get drawn back into it. They leave and they're gone. LaWanda Page does the same thing, and it's great. Every scene she's in, she makes better by her being in it. There's a scene earlier where they're talking about having some guests for dinner, and she's like, no, they can eat hot dogs. It's just fantastic. Later, Marjo, the husband, is like, if you can just take care of her until I get home, there's a bad situation. And she's like, I just don't know. I may not be here when you get back. This is fucked up. So he leaves, and she pours herself a drink, because she says she's going to need the strong stuff. And she says the best line of the whole movie, which is, Lord have mercy, I ain't been this nervous since I've been black. I had to stop for a minute, because I was so amused. I think they just basically said, just improv. It'll be fine. We don't have to write any lines for you. Just improv and it'll be brilliant. And it was. That was the right choice. But the great thing is, she just packs her bag and leaves. She's just like, fuck this shit, I'm out. She never comes back. She successfully gets out of danger. It's perfect. She is the most sensible person in the whole fucking movie. She doesn't try to ignore it, but she also knows that she can't possibly win against it. So she leaves. Bravo. I love it. Overall, the film was really stupid. But it was stupid in a very entertaining way, and I have to say, overall it has a quality to it that makes it feel like a very professional film, even if it is a very silly one. But it is worth seeing. It's a funny film. It's a pretty fun film. It's got some good effects. It's got a lot of people kind of hamming it up. But if you've ever seen Marjoe Gardner in anything, you know he kind of hams it up. So it's very watchable because of the people in it. It's a silly film, but I think if you like possession, supernatural sort of films, I think if you were to say smoke up or have a drink or something like that, maybe you could all watch it together on one of those sharing streaming things, but it is worth seeing, and you can probably find it online fairly easily. It's not a very well-known film, but it was a lot of fun. So I hope maybe you'll give this a try, check it out and see if you like it. There's a lot of fun to be had. The only other questionable thing about it was that, as I said, the groundskeeper gardener guy, not an unattractive man, but probably not the right choice to button only the 2 middle buttons on his shirt, leaving his navel and stomach just there it is, and most of his chest. Like, why would you ever do that? Just unbutton it, leave it open if you're getting hot while you're working, or take it off. It doesn't really matter. Like, they clearly did not care. But that was just a very odd choice. Really, that's sort of the whole film, is an odd choice. You will finish every scene by thinking, well, that was an odd choice. About at least something in it, but at least it's directed well. And even though the music was not to my liking, and the makeup was questionable, it was a very fun experience. So maybe if you check this out, you'll enjoy it. As I've said, the resolution is very silly and just very like, oh, well, that was easy, wasn't it? But it's an amusing film to watch. I'm glad I watched it. And if you want to watch it too, look up Mausoleum, 1983 film. Very amusing. As always, I'm going to keep my Patreon updated, so if you want any updates, if you want to be sure to have all the links for all my stuff, just check there. All of the links are free. All of the posts with my updates and stuff, that's free to the public, so don't worry about that. I'm just using it as a nexus because I'm too lazy to build my own website over again that I don't really want to use anyway. So, I will see you next time, and hopefully this new program will work wonders. Talk to you soon. Bye.